Chris, we've stepped in it again with your father. He's legitimately mad. He didn't like that he was being serious, and we clipped him with the hard network out. We're getting to Ron Magill in a second, but go ahead, Greg. Continue what it is that you were saying with the safety of knowing you're not going to get hard networked out again.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that, and it's so facetious and hitting the wrong note with me when you guys say we got him again, we apologize. Oh, it's never going to happen again. It's ridiculous. I mean,
we'll do it next week.
I could go on and on about why it's getting very tiresome to me.
You sound emotional.
Well, it's disrespectful.
It's super disrespectful, and I literally can't win because I'm looking at the clock and I'm timing what I'm saying to be done before the clock expires.
You're always winning. Just know that.
Yeah, but he's doing what we've told him to do, and he's still getting clipped. That's what he's upset about.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like a win to me. Believe me.
It's a tough club to be a part of, isn't it?
It is sometimes.
My favorite thing is when you're set up on the show to look bad, and then afterwards everyone tells you that was a win.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Classic Le Batard Show.
20 years
Team
of it.
Greg.
Yeah.
Team Greg. Team Greg.
Yeah.
Team Greg.
Okay.
Team
He's
Greg.
not buying it, guys.
I mean, Dan's very sorry. It happened until the next time, and then he'll be sorry again.
I wasn't sorry that time, actually. I wasn't in any way sorry that time.
Okay.
In fact, Chris asked me that time, nor did I apologize to you during the break. I told you what happened during the break, which is your son said to me, should I? And I initially said, no, don't. And then I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And so I wasn't sorry in any way about that time, and I didn't apologize to you that time. I often apologize to you, and you always win around here. You're our most popular creature.
I told them both not to do it for what it's worth, Greg.
This is the other thing that happened during the break that I was laughing about. That Stugotz is, throughout the entirety of the break, as your father is steaming, Stugotz is like, I told them both not to do that, when he didn't say such a word. Not a syllable, just a straight lie in your father's face.
You said it in my ear, actually.
Oh, wrong button. Sorry.
You gave me the opposite. You gave me the look of like, oh, we're close to the hard network out.
I did no such thing.
Oh, that's funny.
Stugots lying is always funny. Yeah.
Okay. The total insincerity of Stugotz is what's funny. We're going to get to Ron Magill in a second, but let's play the stat of the day music real quick, please.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
Joe Burrow is second in the NFL in quarterback rating with a rating of 113.6. He trails only Joe Flacco.
That's pretty good. I've got one here from Benjamin Solak. Since the start of the 2021 season, you've got one team that is first in points per drive on defense, first in EPA per play on defense, and third in success rate on defense. That is Robert Saleh's New York Jets. Really great at defense, can't solve their quarterback problem.
They're not Saleh's anymore.
That is correct.
RFK Jr. is now the interim head coach.
Can you guys get for me, please, that photo that I put in the Slack of RFK Jr.? I want to put it on the screen, and I want to ask a question whenever it is that you get that RFK photo. But Ron Magill is joining us now. I don't know, Ron, if you are making any sort of preparations for what it is that's happening in South Florida with this storm. You're certainly a veteran of many of them. Can you tell us where it is that you are on everything that's happening presently with the weather in South Florida and what's approaching?
Yeah, well, we're closed. We're closed today. We'll be closed tomorrow. Bottom line is several groups of animals can't go out on the habitat simply because the water level's so high that the moats have risen, and theoretically you let a lion out, it could swim across and get out. So a lot of those animals are going to be maintained within their night enclosures until this water at the very least recedes. With that said, we're hoping that we get nothing more than, more rain and a little bit of wind. Certainly not what the people are dreading in the central western part of the state. I feel for them, having been through Andrew myself, having been through Wilma and Irma, some serious storms that we've had the effect down here. I know what that's like, and watching the images of people trying to get gas, getting the sandbags, evacuating. To me, it's a PSD thing, and having it come within 2 weeks of Helene, where people still have nothing but trash loaded up in front of their homes that are unless it's picked up, it's going to become another added projectile, another added headache. Man, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Just to pivot slightly, Ron, I'm shocked because apparently we haven't talked about Moo Deng, the mini hippo, with you yet. And this was a sort of like internet phenomenon over the past month. This mini hippo that lives in Thailand, I believe, who's very tiny and shiny and sort of wet looking and very cute. And there's lots of videos of him eating and enjoying water. They parodied him on SNL the other night. What can you tell us about this little mini hippo and why he's taken the world by storm?
Well, first of all, he's not a mini hippo. He's a pygmy hippo, which is exactly what Dan Le Batard is here at the zoo. And when Dan Le Batard was born here at the zoo, I venture to say he was just as cute, if not cuter. Dan Le Batard is but we didn't basically whore him out like what they're doing with Moo Deng. We gave him a little bit more respect. It's, in today's world of social media, it's just a matter of getting all these images. So they try to get all these images of them fondling and messing with the pygmy hippo baby. And, granted, it's gotten a lot of attention and become an internet sensation. But at the end of the day, it's a pygmy hippo. It's a baby. It's cute, like all pygmy hippos are. I venture to say, like I said, Dan was as cute or cuter when he was born out here, and still thriving. And even though he's not quite as cute anymore, just a lot fatter.
So is the is the zoo that is, in your words, whoring out Moo Deng? Should we be canceling them? Are they acting unethically?
Oh, no. I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying that, what we try to do is, rather than take Dan Le Batard and handle him all the time and do all these things, we want Dan Le Batard to be with his natural mother out there on the habitat so he can learn to be a pygmy hippo and not be an internet model. Anybody who knows Dan knows that Dan does not like that kind of attention. So we try to respect that, appreciate his cuteness from a distance. But it is a pygmy hippo. It's not a mini hippo. And I've heard that over several platforms now. Oh, it's this mini hippo, like you have a mini Schnauzer or a mini Dachshund or some kind of weird little breed. It's not. It's an actual different species that's smaller than the average, than the normal river hippo. It is a protected species, and it is a unique, beautiful animal. So listen, there are people who say we're going to miss the boat because we didn't get all this free publicity and such. But we're not going to take an animal away from its mother and handle it and do all kinds of things like that simply to get a bunch of clicks. We want the animal to grow up to learn how to be a pygmy hippo, so we left him with his mother. We didn't do a lot of that handling on purpose so that he grew to be the pygmy hippo he's supposed to be.
I should explain to new members of the audience that as soon as we left ESPN, because ESPN would not allow us to name a hippo at the zoo, Dan Le Batard, because they were afraid of a hippo escaping, trampling people, and then the headlines, Disney's Dan Le Batard kills innocent people, that when we left ESPN, the first thing we did was go to the zoo, give a donation, and get a pygmy hippo that was in my name. Jessica, forgive me for interrupting you. I think there was a little bit of context that was required there for new listeners.
Good context, Dan. That's also helpful to explain because last week when we were talking about potentially casting a show or a movie about this show, I was going to make the joke that young Dan Le Batard should be played by Moo Deng, but it's more appropriate to just say young Dan Le Batard played by Dan Le Batard at the Miami Zoo, Ron. So is a mini hippo an actual thing? I know you said they're different species, but
it's a pygmy hippo.
There is no such thing as a mini hippo.
No such thing as a mini hippo. No such thing.
Let me go to some video here of a lion, I think, walking through the streets of Rome. I want to get Ron Magill's analysis here of what's happening in this video. Ron, what's the context that you can give us here?
Certainly not normal. Not something that I would be very comfortable about.
Terrifying. It's just it looks like just a normal neighborhood, and it's just a freaking lion just walking around.
Yeah, that's a very big adult male lion that certainly has the potential to do a lot of damage.
What do you do if you come across that on my street? Do I, hey lion?
Well, certainly don't run because you don't have a chance running. And once you turn your back and run, that's going to certainly incite the lion to chase you. I would certainly put my hands up and I try to back up slowly, but never take my face and my hand, my frontal view of that lion. Make sure he always sees your face, sees you as big as you can. Slowly back up, speaking firmly, like go away, lion, hey lion, that kind of thing. Do not turn.
What about hissing?
You can try that,
Ron.
Chris. I don't know how far that's going to get you. You can do that, but
That's scary.
It is.
That's legitimately scary.
Yeah, to us, though, not a lion.
I'm
I
scared.
mean-
I know, but I am scared of that. I think that works. It's unpredictable.
That
could
would get
also-
eaten.
Could also buy
then-
the Pride of a Lion book if you wanted to.
Oh!
good plug there. Good plug there, Greg. Way to go.
Thank you, Chris.
How does this happen, Ron? Do you have any theories on how it is that a lion could be prowling the streets of Rome that way?
Sure, probably a traveling circus going through and not having the proper containment. A lot of these areas that don't have the laws and restrictions that we have here in this country, even with the laws and restrictions we have here in this country, we've had incidents where we've had tigers walking around Florida. So who the heck knows? But generally speaking, these are usually traveling acts as they're going from one city to another. And, an animal escapes because they just don't have the proper containment. On a rarer note, I don't know how it is in Rome, but, here in Florida, and a lot of these people have these animals as quote unquote pets, which is another flipping disaster.
So the Jets just fired their coach, and I've been wondering, what is the head zookeeper? What does a zookeeper have to do to get canned? How does that work?
He's
Do
not
they-
the head zookeeper.
Well,
that's
this
not
is
his.
sort of
but
the
he's,
head
he's not the
zookeeper.
head.
Demeaning, I
He's
mean.
not. It is demeaning. He's
I
not
don't
the
mean to
head
demean you, Ron.
zookeeper.
No. I mean, for me to get canned.
No, not you, Ron. Someone under you.
Well, no. Listen, for anybody working with animals to get canned at the zoo, you'd have to do, something that's actually grossly irresponsible, letting an animal out where it presented a danger to the public. Giving the animal something that led to its severe illness or demise, not properly caring for an animal, not securing certain locks, certain areas. And even in that, there's a system of discipline that goes through the zoo here where you have, a verbal discipline, then you have a written discipline, then you have a disciplinary action, then you have a suspension, and then you get canned. So it's not one of these things, unless you go out, with a gun and start shooting things, that it's going to be an instant canning.
So it's
There's
not
a
like
process.
sports.
Not like sports. No, not like sports. But
Ron-
of course, we're not making that kind of money either.
Ron, I've mentioned before the pond in my backyard. There are lots of ducks in this backyard, lots of duck families that have been raised. And about a week ago, there were some workers that were sent to our backyard, seemingly. They had a miniature boat in which they were corralling all of these ducks and then picking them up by their feet and walking them out of the neighborhood for us to not be able to see where they were going. My question to you is, should I believe that these ducks were being relocated or something much worse? Because it was pretty scarring to watch, honestly.
Yeah, my suspicion is that they were probably Muscovy ducks, non-native species, and probably people were complaining about the ducks, and those ducks would more likely than not being euthanized. I mean, it's always possible they could have been relocated, but I don't know where they relocate them to because they're non-native species, and most people don't want them in their yard anyway. They produce tremendous amounts of fecal material. They are not generally liked by a lot of the people where they're found. If they're corralling them up, it's usually a company, an organization that is specifically contracted to eliminate those ducks.
Ron, always good seeing you. I will tell the audience again that Ron Magill, there is no bureaucracy between him and helping the animals. It is just him, and he is a caring individual who does the right things.
And
by
he's
the
not
animals.
a zookeeper. Yeah.
He is not a zookeeper.
I'm
Typically,
very proud to be known as a zookeeper. I was a zookeeper for many years.
Okay, but you're not a zookeeper now, and it's the most Samson question possible to get into the zoo segment by asking how a zookeeper would be canned. Thank you for being
His favorite
on with
topic.
us, Ron. And I will tell the audience again that if you wish to care for the animals in a way that will take the maximum advantage of your money and use it most efficiently, the Ron Magill Substantive Endowment is the correct way to donate if you want to care for the animals. Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate it, guys. Stay safe.
You have got still a seething Greg Cote here that I'm going to try to cheer up by telling everybody that the Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote is a podcast that you should listen to because it is entertaining and it is always climbing up the charts because what Greg Cote does with that podcast has been a career rejuvenation. Many people listen to it. What is on this week's Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote?
Actually, we have our mutual friend Izzy Gutierrez on with us, and he shocked me by revealing something very personal in his life, and it's worth listening to.
What was it?
Well, I'm going to tell you, but then tell you why you need to listen anyway.
No,
don't tell us,
Don't tell
Greg.
us. Go
Don't
listen to
tell
the
us. Tell me.
podcast. No need to tell us. That's fine. That's a
Yes.
good promotion of
Off
the
air, tell
podcast.
me.
Okay.
Greg Cote also, by the way, is saying something, David, that I wanted to get into with you because he does not want a Dodgers-Yankees World Series, which is something that I'm assuming baseball wants. I would think that baseball would think it catastrophic if it were anyone other than Dodgers-Yankees.
Mets-Yankees. I think Major League Baseball would be okay with that.
I
No.
think they'd prefer Dodgers-Yankees.
A little nugget for you is that baseball hated the Subway Series because
Wow.
it shuts out the entire central and west part of the country. So they're not rooting for that.
Ohtani is the biggest thing in baseball this season, right? And if you have the New York and L.A. markets and Ohtani versus Judge, it doesn't get any better than that.
But you don't want it.
TV rating. Oh, I do want it. Are you kidding me?
Okay, I misrepresented what it is that I thought you were saying.
Bad
I thought,
setup.
bad setup.
Yeah,
I thought,
check the show notes. No, I said that if you're a TV, if you're Fox, you are openly cheering in the studio to get a Dodgers-Yankees World Series.
David, I have a question, though, because this is interesting. If Major League Baseball could only have one team, would it be the Dodgers or the Yankees?
Dodgers, Ohtani.
Really? So Ohtani is bigger than the biggest brand in the sport, the Yankees.
Ohtani is not bigger than the brand of the Yankees, but right now it's his first year in the postseason, and they want to get him all the way through, just get him to the World Series. Him being eliminated by the Padres, which is a very likely outcome because the Padres are a better team, it's not ideal. But yes, Yankees-Dodgers would be the number one that they're rooting for.
I don't think they're a better team, David. I think they're a healthier team. I think that their record over the course of the regular season doesn't make them a better team, but because Freeman is hurt and Betts isn't quite right, I think you can make the argument that they're better now because they're healthier.
The starting rotation for the Dodgers is definitely hurt, but every team is hurt. I'm talking about not the regular season, though. We in the postseason, you talk about who's better now.
But the way that you measure who's better is over the representative sample size of 162 games, is it not?
Not in October.
And health is a huge part of that, right? Like the Dodgers rotation is decimated. So whatever hope they had of staying in games with the Dodgers, or with the Padres rather, the Padres hit 6 home runs in the last game they played, and it's only getting worse to the point where Dave Roberts didn't rule out the idea of Shohei Ohtani pitching at some point in the postseason, which won't happen, but is an insane thing to not rule out because of how desperate you are for pitching.
What did you guys make of Dave Roberts sending video to the league offices of Manny Machado, grainy video from a camera that was far away of Padres third baseman Manny Machado throwing a ball toward the Dodger dugout in a way that didn't seem especially violent, but still necessitated a report from Dave Roberts?
MLB will get that. It'll be Mike Hill, and he'll get that, and he'll do what MLB used to do when I would stand up and yell, "We will not be contracted," and they would just ignore it completely. So that video is ridiculous. Dave Roberts was not being thrown at by Machado. If Machado wanted to hit him, Machado could have hit him right between the eyes. So that was just what players do all the time between innings. They throw the ball into
But
the
Dave
dugout.
Roberts said he was unsettled by it.
That's how you get fired.
I can't believe we're talking about baseball and we haven't gotten to the craziest thing that happened yesterday. Emmanuel Clase gave up runs.
Oh, finally, Chris. Thank you. The Tigers. This is one of the best postseason at-bats that you can ever see, given the circumstances, with Kerry Carpenter going yard against Emmanuel Clase. So Clase had given up 5 runs all season, Okay, he was the best closer in
By
baseball.
by far, the best closer in baseball in years.
His stats over his first 4 seasons are comparable to Mariano Rivera. That's how great he's been in the regular season. He comes into this game in a 0-0 ball game in the 9th with 2 outs, 2 strikes. Kerry Carpenter up to bat, battling off a couple of sliders already. Clase throws the 3rd slider in a row. Only the 2nd time all season he's thrown 3 straight sliders in an at-bat. This is a guy who had the MLB best opponent's OPS against left-handed hitters in the history of baseball. In the history of baseball, facing at least 100 left-handed hitters in a season, the OPS was under 300. And Kerry Carpenter, who had the 5th best OPS in baseball against right-handed hitters, goes yard for a 3-run home run. There are so many more stats that are available on this, but the big one, when we were talking about big home runs last week, and everybody said, oh, be Kirk Gibson. This was Kirk Gibson. It's the first MLB player to hit a 2-out, 2-strike, go-ahead homer in the 9th inning of a postseason game since Game 1 of the 1988 World Series.
You can't beat Kirk Gibson in the division series.
In terms of the moment,
No, you can't.
David,
He's
it's
right.
October.
He's right. It also cannot be one of the biggest all-time greatest at-bats in a series that includes the Guardians and the Tigers. I mean, it cannot be.
the Tigers are having one of
I don't
the
care.
more historic runs of any team. No.
Great
Okay.
at-bats happen for the Dodgers. They happen for the
Right.
Yankees. They happen for teams that people care about.
Can I
okay?
try to give you some stats that might make you care about this
Sure.
at-bat?
I will.
Okay.
I will just say, Mason Miller for the A's throws 104 miles an hour, and he is not close to being the reliever that this human being is. There is nothing in the sport more unhittable than this guy in the late innings.
In the regular season.
Well, that's the whole thing, is he was spectacular all year. You know, Carpenter, this is the first home run by a left-handed hitter against Emmanuel Clase all season. It's the hardest hit ball against Clase of his entire career. It was at 110 miles an hour off the bat. It's the first 3-run homer he'd ever given up in his entire career. Again, he had only allowed 3 runs in his previous 44 2/3 innings pitched. Okay? 5 earned runs in 270 plate appearances in the regular season, 3 in 7 plate
It
appearances
hurts
now.
me for
It's
you
crazy.
that no one cares.
You guys are
what
all
you're
just looking
talking
around.
about
Nobody
in
even
here.
cares at all.
I
Jeremy
hate,
Clase, we've been listening the whole time.
I hate that you are this enthusiastic and you're met everywhere by yawning indifference. With this guy, unless it's a Yankee, he doesn't care. Like
Met, I
a
mean.
Yankee or a Met, he doesn't care at all.
Maybe
And
a Dodger, maybe a Philly.
anybody who plays for Cleveland and Detroit is irrelevant to him. He doesn't even care about the Mets, actually.
That's not true.
Can I give you a name? Can I give you a name that maybe helps here? Because this is the 3rd player in Tigers history with a go-ahead homer in the 9th inning or later of a playoff game, joining Maglio Ordonez and Al Kaline.
Now you're talking.
And then I get you
Al
back?
Kaline.
All right.
That's when the Tigers were the
We
Tigers.
did it.
Al Kaline.
Come on.
That's
So
when the
good they
Tigers
named
meant
a-
something.
A battery.
Need
after him.
something right now.
I hate that we've become your great-grandfather's
Oh,
show.
Kaline,
God,
no,
I
yeah,
hate
man.
it so much.
One of the greats.
He was no Yaz,
Yeah.
but still.
Yeah, you're right. He was no Yaz. You're right.
Instead of just asking through social media to go to Detroit, can you submit some sort of budget of what it would require for you to go to Detroit?
A plane ticket, because I imagine the dozens of Tigers fans that have reached out asking for me to be in Detroit this week.
You're
going to
do it
continue
for him,
their
Samson?
run.
You're going to pay his way? You're saying
I
you're
will
in?
do a flight
guess a
for
hotel,
him to
maybe.
go to Detroit. Oh, you just said an air.
I guess they'll let me stay there. I just figured I'd bring my wife. I don't want her to have to stay in a random
Well,
place.
all of a
It's
sudden,
a work
that's
trip.
not the way you
Yeah,
negotiate.
but I don't know,
Jeremy,
live
he
here
asked
during
you
a
question.
hurricane.
Jeremy, he asked you what it would take.
I should have started higher.
Yeah.
Yes, real amateur negotiation. Do me a favor
That's why I
while
don't have a contract
while
here.
you're at this, please. Do me a favor. Look up for me whether Al Kaline was better than Yaz, because I think he was.
No way.
way.
There is no way, Dan.
No.
I mean, are you kidding?
100%.
No.
Al Kaline?
No.
I'm pretty sure
Do it in Boston.
that yeah, there it is. The bias of you have to do it for 4 or 5 teams, or Stugots will simply not respect it. But I'm pretty sure that Al Kaline was more of a Hall of Famer than Carl Yastrzemski
Says
was.
nobody in the history of baseball.
Yeah.
I was ready to help Jeremy. And you wonder how easy it is to out-negotiate people. Can you imagine the idiocy? I need a plane ticket. Okay? That's what you'll get.
I mean, it does help.
Go
plane
do your
ticket would
job.
help me
But
be there.
he agreed to terms. He was going to buy you a plane ticket. It was done. And then you started negotiating on wife and home and lodging and food. He asked you what you wanted. All you had to do was answer it correctly when he asked you. He was going to say yes. He was ready to fly you there. And then you started negotiating for distant family members.
Well, my wife is not a distant.
you
family
were
member.
about to go to
Distance.
other family members if he gave you his wife, your wife too.
Well, I went up to UCF and created content with my brother using an iPhone. So I'm able to do this without much help from anybody else in our staff.
So
All
your
I
wife
needed-
doesn't have to go then.
She could have had the iPhone for me. Somebody needs to film, Dan, and we're not going to send another person from our crew. There's a hurricane coming.
Okay, I'm pretty much done with you yelling
This
at me,
started with
so
just
we're going to
getting
go
to be
ahead and
happy
do
about
this.
Emotional. It's Tiger.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, asshole.
Multiple people walked up to me at the heat yesterday and said, "We don't like the way the show treats us."
In line.
Yaz had more homers.
By the way, I've texted Tim Kirkchin, so we'll have an answer on this soon.
Well, you can just look it up on the internet.
No. That's how you do it. You asked him who's better, Kaline or Yaz, and whatever his answer is, that's the winner.
It's a gap.
Yep.
Where's the look at me Louie button?
What'd you say? I missed it.
I just texted Kirchin.
That is cool, actually.
I would accept Kirchin's answer unless he says Kaline.
Again, you
Well
can
played.
you can
Yeah.
just use the internet. You don't even have to learn anything anymore. You just have to know how to find it. It's not really that hard. Or you can do it even lazier than that and text Tim Kirkchin.
So we're just going to put into Google who's better, and we're just
no,
going to get a
you
one-word
can just
answer?
look at the numbers and read basic
I
math.
did. Yeah,
that's-
I
no,
told you,
gave
more
me
homers for
no,
Yaz.
You gave me more
that
homers.
wins, I mean.
Right.
that
David,
is-
you're a baseball man. Do you have an opinion on Kaline
he already
versus
told
Yaz?
you that Al Kaline was better than Yaz.
2.5 minutes ago.
On what basis?
All of the bases that are run around.
Absolutely anecdotally.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do against the spread, please.
I text passing.
I text Shams.
Oh, wow.
Button bar's not working. Doot doo 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 doo
Knew it wasn't
doo
me.
doot doo 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 doot doo 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 doo. It's time for Against the Spread.
We're in a contract year. This is a sponsored segment by
creative.
DraftKings. You are doing it that way in a contract year.
Jess, give me my background music.
We're about to ask for millions of dollars from DraftKings.
Against the Spread is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear about all that DraftKings has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. David, start us off.
Can we try the music one more time if we're going to do this? Is there any way to get the button to work?
She's doing fine. She's doing better than.
Are you gonna do it in the
than
background?
Fine.
Kaline had a higher OPS.
Against the spread tonight, we've got a major game 3, Phillies-Mets. And let's just say that the Phillies held
Jess got
Aaron
really good
Nola
at this.
to pitch in game 3. Whoever wins game 3 of a 5-game series will win that series blank percentage of the time. Fill in the blank. Aaron Nola and the Phillies over the Mets.
Against the Spread.
What is the percentage of time? Is it like 78% of the time or something absurd like that?
I'll just need someone in my ear.
Okay. We don't know what the number is, but that is good sponsored content where we don't have any information or music, but we're going to give you betting information that you probably shouldn't take. Jessica, what do you have?
Purdue and Illinois, Dan. A couple of Big Ten teams playing this weekend. Illinois is pretty good. I think they're still ranked 24th right now. Good offense. Luke Altmaier playing quarterback. Defense is really solid. Purdue is one of the worst football teams I've ever seen in my entire life. And somehow the spread's only 19. So I'm taking Illinois to cover that.
Against the Spread.
Against the
spread. Jeremy, bring us home.
Sometimes you don't bet on a team, you bet against a team. And that's what I've been doing with Purdue all year. You're right. They are terrible.
It's like, it's honestly, it's sad.
Yeah.
And I think they need to light the giant drum on fire and perform an exorcism on it to come back and win a game.
Notre Dame beat them after losing to Northern Illinois, something like 70-7 or something
66-7.
I have an update from Passon. He said, holy bleep, that's a tough one.
Thank you for that expertise.
He'll get back to me.
Text Shams.
I will.
I'm looking at the numbers. It may be a dead heat.
It's pretty close.
It's really close.
Yeah, that's why Passon said it's a tough one.
That's why you can't just look at the stats, Dano.
Yaz won 7 Gold Gloves. I don't know about the battery.
How many World Series for Yaz?
He was in one World Series, I believe.
Did he win one?
I don't think he won a
How about
I don't
Kaline?
believe so.
Played for the Red Sox.
Kaline
They had
has a
pretty historic
championship.
streak
You don't?
of
Okay,
not
yeah.
Greg,
winning.
not
So
looking
does Trent
good.
Dilfer.
Okay, very good. Different sport, good
The
reference.
championship ring has been demerited over the years, and you know it.
Kaline has
And you
10
know
gold
it.
gloves.
10 Gold Gloves? I think Yaz had 11. I misspoke.
7.
Hey, so baseball? We're going to keep going with that. Padres, Dodgers, we were already talking about that series. Michael King is on the mound for the Padres. Walker Buehler is on the mound for the Dodgers. They have had slightly different seasons. Walker Buehler's been really bad despite being part of that 2014 Vanderbilt National Championship team in the College World Series. So you have Michael King on the mound. Padres are -1.5 at home. We're taking the Padres against the spread.
To win by more than a run. You have them winning by
More than
a run.
1.5.
I have an update from Passon. He said Yaz's peak was better than Kaline's peak. Slight lean to Yaz, 51-49.
Yes.
You said you wanted Tim Kirchin's opinion on this, not Jeff
I got
Passon's.
Passon's. I mean,
not a poor man's
No,
Tim
we love
Kirchin.
Passon. Passon
Whoa.
should have gotten Woj's job, not Shams.
Under what scenario?
You know, he likes Yaz better. I mean, you don't got to do anything
Passon
else for
also
me.
pointed out that Yaz won an MVP and a Triple Crown.
Thank you. Triple
Yep.
Crown.
Yep.
Triple Crown, which went about 60 years without being won before Miguel did it.
Let's talk for a second here about what happened with Shams, because I talked about this a little bit with David on Nothing Personal. I will be on with David on Nothing Personal, 8 a.m. Eastern on YouTube every day this week except for Friday. And one of the things that we were talking about, this is the smaller, petty part of this. For those of you who know that Woj and Shams were once pupil and mentor and then became bitter rivals. And if you know the inner workings of the information business and this fight for millions and tens of millions of dollars in the information business, and if you've been listening to this show, you know that Woj was very proprietary about how he was a power broker at ESPN, where it is that he allowed people that he got along with to appear on ESPN or not appear on ESPN, and his rivalry with Shams became a bitter one because Shams became the only person on earth who could do that job as well as Woj was doing it. He learned at Woj's knee, and I think he's still in his 20s, if I'm not mistaken. He may be in his early 30s, but he is a real prodigy in this business to be able to do what Woj was doing with a lifetime of basketball sources, and did it differently because he had a lot of players as sources. It wasn't just management. It wasn't just agents. He was doing the job differently. Pat McAfee had Shams on all the time, and Shams was the only person at ESPN working anywhere in basketball on ESPN who was allowed to appear on any show that Woj didn't approve of as a basketball voice, because he was doing it through McAfee, and it would appear that McAfee sort of enjoyed doing that with Shams to Woj. I thought it was very strategic, if you're doing the petty stuff on this that so many people enjoy, that Woj goes on Jim Rome's show yesterday to talk about how proud and happy he is that Shams has that job, when I thought that the only reason Jeff Passan was being considered for that job is because Woj wanted one of his guys to work at ESPN, even if he didn't have any basketball sources, which Jeff Passan does not. And even if we've already seen Adam Schefter went into the basketball information business, Stugots, and didn't do it well, because you cannot just go from one sport to another without a lifetime of sources and be breaking news all over the place. They're very difficult jobs to do well and have, and Shams is legitimately the only person on earth with the credentials, the reputation, and the sources to be able to do that job as well as Woj did. I've found it surprising that the money hasn't come out on what it is that Shams is earning, because these are jobs that now make between $7 and $10 and $11 million a year, because the information business is so valued by a company at ESPN that has downgraded how it does and spends on journalism, but not on this kind of information. On this kind of information, they're replacing the journalism they used to do that was more comprehensive and thorough with just get to information first with one of the insiders.
Well, we saw what happened live on the show today when there was a story breaking about Saleh being fired, and we had an insider react to not being the insider for that story. And what struck me about this entire situation with Shams and with Woj is, how does it work when you're negotiating if you don't have any of the sources that you need to have? Is it that you don't need the sources anymore? Because as a front office, we would give the information to whoever we wanted to. We would choose in Baseball Insider nationally to give certain things to, much to the chagrin of local media. But we would do that, build, because we would want something back. You don't just exchange little black books. So I don't know how Jeff Passan or anyone else would have done that job.
It is interesting. I always thought that Shams was the natural replacement to Woj because he already has those contacts. He doesn't have to ask Woj for him. He doesn't just have the contact. It's not like, because you're right, I think with Passan, you're handing him the contact list, but he still has to develop the relationships. Shams already has the relationships, and he has the numbers. So for me, that was the natural guy, a younger Woj.
A contact list doesn't help you here. That's not how you do that job. Just having the phone numbers Woj has.
And to give the audience an idea just how much money these jobs pay, Woj left over $30 million on the table when he left. I mean,
is it possible the whole beef was just kayfabe? Set up this grand dramatic succession plan?
It's as possible as Aaron Rodgers ousting Robert Saleh because of the in-flight choices on movies.
Oh, so I was kind of kidding, but I think both those things could be true. I mean, who wants to watch MacGruber for a 14th time, Dan?
Yeah, right. Rang true to me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any information or opinions on this subject matter?
I have a
that
question
we're
for
discussing?
you, because listening to you talk, this led me to wonder, do you think that Woj would have retired abruptly and surprisingly to many if not for Shams on his tail?
I believe that the pressure of that job was only that pressurized for Woj because of the existence of Shams. There's no third, like Chris Haynes is good, and there are a number of people who are good at it. There was no one and is no one that compares to those two. The bronze medalist there is a distant third.
It's not often that during the show we get this type of breaking news, because it's never that Woody Johnson fires his coach mid-season.
He's never done it, David.
Ever.
Right.
In a quarter of a century.
I know.
And we are there right now, 5 games in, done with his coach, and his statement was a first-class FU to his former coach.
Really?
Okay, wow.
Boy, did he go after him, and I can't even understand why it would be necessary to do that.
Is it super long, or can you read it to us?
It is. I'm going to read only the pertinent parts.
Okay.
He did say that I informed Robert Saleh that he will no longer serve as the head coach of the Jets. Then Jay Glazer reported that Woody Johnson actually went to Robert's office. I've never done it that way.
I was curious
you
how
let
that
them
goes.
come to you.
Right.
Like, I was wondering if Robert gets an email early in the morning, like, "Hey, Woody wants to see you," and he's just like, "Oh shit."
But you want to feel that power of send so-and-so to my office, right?
That's half the fun of firing someone.
What's the matter with you?
You don't go to their office.
Yes.
That's from Jay Glazer. I assume that it's true.
Do you think he does the little knock on the door? Like, his door's open, he's in there, and it's just a little knock, knock, knock.
Hey, you busy?
Hey, you busy? You got 5?
You're not busy anymore.
I bet you got some time for me. So he then introduces who the interim head coach is. So no insider info needed. It's right here in the statement. Jeff Ulbrich will serve as our interim head coach for the remainder of the season. Here we go. He's a tough coach. This is still in the statement. Who has the respect of the coaches and players on this team. How do you, I can't even, that obviously says it all.
Yep.
But then he keeps going. I believe he, along with the coaches on this staff, can get the most out of our talented team and attain the goals we established this offseason.
Wow.
I mean,
Yikes.
it's pretty fair to say Robert Saleh has not gotten the most out of that team. Like that's a fair.
Well, his
statement.
quarterback got hurt. 4 snaps into the
But
season
this
last
season,
year.
I'm talking about this season.
I know. You're
They're
right.
playing for first place.
They have a game for first place on Monday night against the Bills. If they win that game, the Jets will be in first
But it
place.
hasn't looked great.
It has not looked. The offense has not looked great. Now,
Okay.
is that Aaron's fault? Is that Hackett's fault? By the way, Diana Rossini, sorry, Greg, she is reporting the Jets will keep Nathaniel Hackett. So
Shocking.
we know who's making the decisions for the Jets right now.
David, Aaron Rodgers fired Robert Saleh, yes or no?
It certainly feels that way to me. And I've seen players do that. We've had players come into our office and say, I won't play for this band.
Do you ever have a guy that's like, you're our backup third baseman. I don't care what you think. Like, obviously, it has to be someone important. I just like the idea of a player who thinks they're more important than they are being
That's
like,
true.
hey, I'm done with Robert
Yeah.
Saleh. And it's like, I don't give a shit.
I
Yeah,
think
John
there's-
Birdie, don't worry about who the manager is.
That's a fine, David. I think there's a middle ground here between maybe perhaps not the best head coach and hasn't gotten the most out of the team, but also clearly not the biggest problem. And so firing him feels like a scapegoating of the head coach where there's some bigger problems, specifically with the offensive side of the ball that, yes, he's the head coach. He manages the offense as well as the defense, but how much say has he had in personnel and in the offensive coordinator? It doesn't seem like those were either of his first choices.
I told Jeremy right before the show that Aaron Rodgers, when he throws interceptions, it seems like they have meaning behind them. Like, those are not passes the last 2 weeks that Aaron Rodgers normally makes. He's never had 3 interceptions in a game. He was making terrible pass after terrible
he
pass.
was tanking.
You cannot win games and get your coach fired. It doesn't work like that.
That one overthrow he had was like a really uncharacteristic throw from him.
It's the worst throw I've ever seen a Hall of Fame quarterback make. This is the greatest thrower of a football, maybe him and Dan Marino, that I've ever seen.
It can't be worse than the Derek Carr first interception last night.
Yeah,
he
but
just chucked it to the right
Oh,
side of
that
the
was
field,
so
thinking
bad,
he was
Chris.
throwing it out of bounds, and it just didn't get out of bounds.
You root for that in a
Right.
Monday Night Football game because that's when you decide, all right, I'm going to get my jammies on. I'm going to bed early.
I love how I piqued David Sampson's interest because what I'm accusing Aaron Rodgers of doing is tanking the last 2 games to get his head coach fired.
It's the equivalent in baseball of 20 games. Just make sure we understand the math. You don't need to tank 20 games to get the attention of your owner when you're Aaron Rodgers. You just knock on his door and say, hey, you got a minute?
Welcome to DraftKings Crowning Moments. It's a segment in which we like to shine a light on those winning bets from the weekend, and I got a sample here for you that I think you'd enjoy. These are nice, big, juicy ones. One better bet $25 on the Atlanta Falcons defense or special teams to score an anytime touchdown in that game against the Saints at plus 1,900. That got a $500 payout. Congratulations to you. Another person bet $10 on the correct score of the Houston Texans-Jacksonville Jags game at plus 9,000 to turn their $10 bet into a $910 payout. That's going to help at the end of the month when you're doing your bookkeeping, folks. And finally, we had an octopus in the Minnesota Vikings-Green Bay Packers game. Do you know what an octopus is? It's when someone scores a touchdown and then on top of that gets a 2-point conversion. A bettor correctly predicted that there would be one in this game to get $80 from their $5 investment in that one. Crowning Moments is presented by DraftKings. Submit your winning bets for a chance to be featured. DraftKings, the crown is yours.